Last point, I think hopefully we've already addressed that issue and improved coordination between building and CCWD, so that if they get a request to remove CCWD meters in the future, that would come to us before they approve anything. And then I think in Jessica or anybody else, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what we're talking about there is for renovations, for changes that would require a building permit.
Okay,
Correct.
So I think we need to clarify that you know, if they're making a physical modification, then they have to have a approved set of building plans before they come to us. But if they're just asking for a review of their usage, then I wouldn't want to require something that
Right.
I think that's a good,
Good cost.
yeah, that's a good point.
$50,000 to create. So
Okay.
does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, I saw the engineering committee minutes, and there were quite a few, or I thought I saw that there were some of the bigger commercial account holders here at the meeting, or
The
did they
minutes were
call
probably
in?
from a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, not at this most recent meeting.
okay, but you know, I want to know what the feel is for what we're proposing versus how they.
Rebecca, do we have any customers online?
No, we don't. So talk about interest.
Well, the other thing though, were like, for instance, we know we have
My Metamon.
Metama, Cosmic. Were they given specifically this draft or the,
I don't
Agenda.
believe so. I think it would be great for us to get input from the board on this draft. I mean, obviously this was publicly noticed, but we didn't reach out to them specifically on it, but I think once we have
I
feedback
did-
from the board. Oh,
I
sorry,
did
go ahead, Jeff.
communicate. I did communicate with Dean with Metamont, so he was aware of this board meeting and this draft. And I have been in communication with Cosmic Court that we've been working on it, and that this meeting was happening today.
Well, I apologize for the incorrect information, but I think, and I'm glad that you did that, Jessica. I appreciate that. And I think though, once we do have a revised draft based on feedback from the board, though, we can reach out again and see if there's, from the interested stakeholders, see if there's comments or feedback. For it.
I think that would be important, at least for those who have reached out to you already, whether it's complaint or what have you. You might want to make sure that they're noticed to go look at it because we're working on it. Now's your chance.
Right.
Kind of thing. Anything else, Bertha?
No, as I say, I just want to make sure that, you know, Metamon is, of course, included, and I haven't heard any comments, but then Jessica has been in communication, so that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Scott, do you have
I don't have anything to say.
Rex?
I am confused a little bit and concerned about the appropriateness of the 2 years of activity for anything can be considered on this. What I'm thinking about is this starts off by saying it's going to provide commercial account holders flexibility to allow them to more cost effectively manage their water. Hypothetically, if somebody came into Calaveras County and they saw a commercial building, they were interested in buying it or leasing it, putting in changed activity, does this preclude them from approaching CCWD to say, hey, we'd like to consider going on a master meter, but we're just new to the area. We don't have an account here. We haven't had it for 24 months. What's so important about this 24-month?
That was my question too. Why'd you come up with the 2 years?
Well, that's a long-standing policy after the service has been established.
Right.
They could, it was actually for the district's ability, because back in the day, they just made an estimate of their usage. But then the district had the ability to review it, but not for 2 years. So if we have an existing account, we're not gonna, the account is still, if it's been ongoing for 2 years and somebody comes in and wants a review, I don't know why we would deny that.
So I think there's two reasons for it. But to your point, Director Thomas, if it's a new use or a change of use, that wouldn't apply. No, we would absolutely consider that at the time. The policy objective here, I think, is that we want, if it's a continuation of an existing use, we want to have enough time to evaluate usage over, a 2-year window. And we also don't want to get hit with constant requests to reevaluate changes of, or reevaluate usage within, that window of time. So if it's the district evaluating, we want to have enough time to have, the right information to base a decision on. If it's a request from a commercial customer, and without a significant change in use, then, we can do that every 2 years, but we don't want to do that every month or every 6 months for a commercial customer.
The time frame is, I'm not real comfortable on that, the 2 years. But if we have this real-time meter readings, wouldn't it in theory help you get the information with a couple of clicks or no? On the computer, you know what I mean?
I think it's more, and feel free if anyone else wants to speak to this, but I think it has more to do with us wanting to have a longer time period to evaluate. It's not necessarily the availability of the information. We want to see whether there's seasonal
Use
fluctuations.
changes throughout the season.
Right, seasonal
So,
fluctuations or year to year.
Use, so we
Right.
can make an accurate, you can
Exactly.
take the month of April, and just say that, well, that must be their use all the time. I mean, it changes dramatically. Any restaurant or anything uses more water in the summertime,
So you want to be able to evaluate
Year over
2
year,
seasons
seasonal,
of
yeah,
April through May kind of thing. Okay, that makes more sense to me. You want to, gotcha.
thank you for articulating that better than I.
It was the seasons that clicked in for me, but thank you. That was helpful.
Okay, but does this warrant having one sentence that points out that there is an exception for a new owner or a change of ownership of a building?
I think we do include some language that basically says unless there's a change of use. It is an interesting question. It's something that we've talked about, I know, because there could be times where a question arises as to, well, how significant of a change is a change of use?
Who determines?
Is it, the same use, but they do a slight, rearrange the furniture? Obviously, that probably doesn't qualify, but and a significant remodel with a completely different land use, obviously, those are the extremes that obviously would qualify. But what if it's somewhere in between and we have to, where, there might be some gray areas as to what qualifies as a change of use or not. It's hard, I think it would be hard to actually define that in policy, but it's an issue that we've
But
discussed.
it's also a two-way street. Somebody comes in and asks for a modification and we make an adjustment. We still should reserve the right to review that usage in 2 years.
Yeah.
So we can make an adjustment if they end up being,
Right,
a much higher level of consumption.
absolutely.
Water and sewer. So, I mean, it's safe to us and it's safe to them.
Right.
Is that articulated in there? There's an expectation that the district would do.
Can do, not would do, they could do.
Right.
I don't know if it's articulated or not, but I'm sure it will be.
I'd like to make sure.
On page 1, it says adjustments will only occur after a full 2-year. So it is written in there. You might want to change it based on this conversation.
Well, maybe the adjustments by CCWD can occur after 2 years.
with
It
that-
says 2
with
years
that
from the
comment.
completion
Okay,
of
I got the floor. right
their
now.
last review or upon a change
Got
of
it.
business use of the commercial property.
We can clarify that, absolutely.
I would like to see the verbiage that does say that if there is a change in the business type, and if it is a new owner that takes over, they should be able to have that review within a year, not 2 years, because people do run their businesses a little bit different. One may be more conservative or what have you. So have something like that in there, but one of the things for me is, I want to see the customer service. I don't want to feel like the customers always have a roadblock or feel like there's a roadblock when it says a CCWD can do the review when they want. You know what I'm saying? I get that, and you should be able to, but I also want to make sure it's not like it's our way or the highway of how you do these. And one of my other questions was, you wanted time to evaluate. When you want to charge somebody to do an evaluation, I would expect to see, okay, you need to get that CCWD will have a response in X amount of time, not a year later or 6 months. It should be, in my opinion, 2-3 weeks. Somebody's going to pay $330. They should get a timely response. And so I just want to make sure we're protecting the district. At the same time, we do work for the ratepayers. And I want to make sure that's there, not by CCWD. We can kind of do what you want and you'll only be able to do it these times. So I'd like to make sure there's flexibility.
Okay, and I think to the first point too, and anyone from the engineering department might be able to address this. But I'm just wondering how the district handled that in the past, if it's a change of ownership, but not a change of use. Does that potentially trigger a commercial review, either initiated by the district or if requested by the customer?
Yeah,
When's the last time we did something like that?
I don't, it happens periodically. Good afternoon, members of the board. This is Charles Palmer, Michael. Yeah, I would just say that, it could be that, maybe new owners aren't aware that that is an option available to them. So, I don't think we have had, the one that comes to mind is up in Arnold at the bank. There was a bank up there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, and the bank had a lot of irrigation water, and they did come in and request a review of their account. So that was maybe 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, and so Charles, that's an example though, where it was a change of ownership and a change of use, because it was converted from a bank to a hardware store. But I think the scenario we're wondering about is if it was a change of ownership with a continuation of the same use and no big remodel or anything along those lines. It's hard. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I would think in that scenario, unless it's within 2 years of, establishing the account, that we would probably engage in the account review if the customer requested it. It maybe not
But
initiated
Michael-
by the district, but.
Michael, if it's just a change of ownership, let's say Big Trees Market sold,
Sure.
new owner. Well, we couldn't review it until after a minimum of a year's time to see if they did anything different, right?
I think the question though is if they came to us and said, we're not sure about the size of this meter or why we're being charged X number of ESFUs, we'd like to see a commercial review.
Gotcha.
I would think in that scenario, unless it's also a new account within that 2-year period, that we would engage in that review.
Well, the scenario, as I see it, I mean, if we're talking about a new owner, we have 2 years previous data.
Right.
We need 24 months of data on usage to make a determination, because they could come and say, hey, we don't believe, that these guys are paying a multiple of 4 on the sewer for the ESFUs. We don't believe the usage warrants that. We'd like you to go back over the last 2 years and do a review and see if we're being charged the appropriate
Right.
multiple. And I don't know if the board understands it. On the commercial sewer, many times could be paying 6 ESFUs of sewer and maybe 2 of water. So if they're not using that much water, or some of it's going to landscaping and too much for landscaping, and they can come to us and ask for a review, and I don't think it would matter who the owner is. If there's 2 years of previous data, I think anybody can walk in off the street if the property owner and ask for a review.
I think that's right. I think we're on the same page there. And then I think it would though be up to the district to evaluate that use, because it's like, as you said, President Cicada, if there's a change of ownership, there may be change, even if there's no remodeling involved. There might be a change in management or a change in how they operate.
Well,
And so
let me-
2
let me-
years
let me
after
follow
that,
that
the
up.
district might want to
So,
reevaluate.
Let's just say that we do make a modification and change, then we can't go back and review their usage again for 2 years.
We would want 2 years to evaluate that, how that changes has taken effect. And then
And we
at that
need to
point,
write that in their application form. They need to understand that after we make a modification, we will review, we can review it, but not for 2 years.
right.
So when we make an application for this thing, that needs to be followed. So they understand it's a two-way street.
And I think in the language, it has to be real clear, and if you have to put another paragraph making the clarity, I don't want staff to have to interpret
Totally agree.
anything.
Yeah.
Just to protect the ratepayers' laws.
That's why this is all really good feedback so that we can, let's make sure that it's all very clear and there's no ambiguity and no room for interpretation. That's why we wanted to go through this.
Continue.
No, I'm satisfied.
All right, let me go through my notes. So we talked about the time, understanding 2 years, that is fine with me. You're gonna make sure verbiage is clear. I'd like to set a time frame of when somebody would get a response from us for that $330. I don't like charging fees for stuff that I feel that we should do anyway, but I understand we don't put it in their monthly rate, so, okay, I'll live with it. But for that $330, is 3 weeks enough time? I'd like to see 2 weeks, but okay. I'll compromise, like, can we commit to 3 weeks for that person's money? I mean, 2 months is unacceptable. I think a month is unacceptable, but
I was gonna say 30 days. I think it depends on the use and Sam's probably the one that does these more than anyone else. So I don't know. if
Some
you
of
have
these
any on that.
might become pretty complex. You know, if they're wanting to reduce their, say there's 7 meters on a commercial building, they want to reduce it. I mean, that may take some calculation and some.
would it be too much to say, all right, if they're looking, like we said, anywhere from 0 to 4 meters, we can have it done in 3 weeks and so forth, or is that too much to even put that together? I don't want to leave anybody hanging.
I think what you're looking for, Cindy, a 1 month wouldn't be unacceptable to.
Okay, 30
business. Yeah, I'd say 30 to 60.
Calendar year.
Or what? What happened?
No.
Well, I
Yeah.
think, well, that's what I was gonna say is I think, we'll provide a response within 30
Fire
days.
squad or what?
But,
No,
to
but
be
just
fair,
say
the
from-
response might be, this is a complex case and we need more time
And then
to
if that
evaluate. But
happened,
the answer,
the-
in most cases, I think we'll be
but
providing.
wouldn't you
an answer.
know within the first day delving into it, wait, this is gonna take longer? And couldn't you reach out to them and say, look, we strive for 30 days, but this is gonna be X amount of time, and you would make sure that those who need to know that.
Yeah.
I
You
think
responded.
communication.
I think that's
communication
right.
I think liking it to insurance. When you
Yeah.
have an insurance claim, Department of Insurance in California does require you to give an answer. I mean, to give a response, not an
Yes.
answer, not finalize everything, but give a response within 25 days and then every 30 days after until it's resolved.
Right.
You have to respond and correspond. And I mean, that's just keeping in touch and not
And-
letting it sit on a shelf. for-
Right,
And I
but
think
not
that's what we want.
25 and every 30 days. It should be more like within a week, I'll let you know your answer or whatever, or, you know what I mean? Because
Well, I
Cosmic Court went on for years, and
Sam's on
that's
vacation.
not maybe an apple
Sam's
for
on
apple.
vacation and it's a complicated issue
Right.
and he's got to make an inspection. I don't know.
Staff are extremely busy, so it might be 20 days before we look at it. And then we can evaluate whether it's gonna exceed 30 days before we can provide the response or
Let me
not.
ask this question. Is this going to be reviewed by the management?
The policy or the change of use?
A change-
Typically
a change in use.
not, correct, Charles? It doesn't usually go to the engineering committee or the board.
We could add that in if you want to.
We-
That's something that you.
No, I'm just wondering, I'm just talking about the timeframe. If it has to be, if it's something complex, it has to be reviewed by the engineering committee.
I
The
think,
30 days,
yeah,
maybe.
I think if it's complex, it'd probably end up in engineering committee, but I don't think we've I'm sure we've done them without going to engineering committee.
Yeah.
Give me an example of what you feel is complex that would take more than 30 days. You have a business out there, lock and tent item.
Well, I'll give you one,
Okay.
Valley Springs Sports and Fitness Center. I mean, they've got 3 or 4 meters out there. One's a 4-inch that controls the fire sprinklers that never has usage. There's probably a 1-inch meter, and then there's a 2-inch meter, I think, that accesses the pool. Now, I know that she's gonna come in for a review. And depending on, that building may not be a gym either, with the showers and all the issues. I mean, they've got 3 meters there of variable sizes. And that may need, depending on the use, the change of use, it could need engineering.
And I.
It could become a
And there's
sorry
also,
for,
just to add to that too, there's often, in cases like that, there's often a long history of correspondence between the district and the customer, or previous changes of use that all get taken into account before we have an understanding really of what we're dealing with, and then can make decisions
So-
from there.
And forgive me, you said there could be different size meters or types or something, and why would that be? Because one's landscaping, one's in the kitchen or whatever. You said there was different meter types. Why, what would make that a different meter?
They have
Size.
different purposes. One's for a pool, one's for fire
Okay.
sprinklers and set, it's staggered.
Okay,
And then-
no, I truly don't know, that's fine.
No, I know. I mean, that's the whole issue with these things. There's over the years, because of policy, whatever, there may be 8 meters, 1 meter for every dentist office or accountant's office. And what these people want to do is say, look, as a whole, you're using, the bathroom one time in the accountant's office, although, the hair salon next door is using a lot. They want to try to consolidate that. Some of those things are going to be complex.
Yeah, well, that part I understand. That's why they want to try and save on meters, but you made a comment about sometimes they have, different meter sizes, and what I was looking for, the answer was, well, you have them for your fire sprinklers. Okay, because it's a different amount of flow they need, I guess, maybe not ever used. And then a pool uses something different for whatever reason. And then another meter may be set for kitchen type situations or something.
No, I mean, the commercial meters sizes have been sized historically based on an estimation of their fixtures or previous businesses' use. And so they may have, you can feed, a big office complex with a 1-inch meter, where currently there could be 6 individual 5/8 meters on it. Clearly, if they went to the 1-inch meter, they would be saving money. And so, I mean, but I also didn't notice in here, because we do have, I didn't see anything where we're talking about, for instance, if a little strip mall has a pizza parlor, are we gonna still require that they have their own independent meter? Is there a level of usage where we'll say that one has to be metered independently? Have we come up with that? I mean,
Actually, and
Well,
why would be important for that?
well, because they dictate the majority of the use. Say the pizza parlor is next to, a number of accounting offices and stuff. The pizza parlor is the one that's driving all that.
So I think the way that this works is it creates the flexibility for the property owner to decide whether the units are individually metered or master metered. And in that scenario, if they elect to use a master meter, whether that's from the initial construction or as a change after the building is already there, then it's on the property owner
Right.
to allocate, whether they want a sub meter or not, or how they charge their tenants for that usage.
I agree with that.
So
because-
that's one of the things where we are trying to create some flexibility there. That example raises an interesting question on the sewer side, obviously, because there's different, grease trap requirements for a restaurant than there would be for the dentist office next door or the thrift store next door, probably a better comparison. So,
Yeah, because there's a lot more thrift stores then Dennis office 7.
But you have, I think
I'm
there's,
thinking of big trees.
But
There's
it's-
the round table and there's a thrift store right next door.
but it's addressed in the policy, I think, with what you just said though, right? The
Well,
minimum EF.
yeah, I mean, let's, we need to make sure that that scenario is addressed, right? So, and that we're not overly, we don't want to create, we don't want to lump things together that aren't like uses. And
Yeah. And I mean, as a property owner, if I had that scenario, I would definitely have the piece of property being independent. It would just be too hard. Because they're gonna be the ones, if they do one master meter, they're gonna be the ones that are gonna have to allocate the rent to pay for the water, and we'll be out of that business.
Right.
You gotta remember that this is actually gonna save our staff quite a bit of effort.
And that's on them. You know, they want to try and save money, well, they gotta pick up the slack of
Right.
billing at minimum. So, I don't know if you made any that we had brought up, you know, do we want approved building plans prior to coming to us? And I'm looking on, the water side to see, or in that area, the property owner must submit these approved building plans showing all current proposed tenant improvements, water fixtures. Okay, that's good. But there was, hang on, there, I can't find it. Hang on.
What are you looking for?
There's oh, here it is. So the greater of the two will be implemented for bi-monthly base rate charges. The actual peak day use, versus plumbing, fixtures. And it says whichever of those is greater, whether it's in the plumbing fixtures, I'm on page 3. I'm actually in sewer, but I noticed this somewhere in the water as well. So under B2, the actual peak day water use of the most recent 12-month period, as evidenced by water service meter reading, and a review of the applicable capacity needs based on drainage fixture counts as tabulated in the plumbing code. If the water purveyor is other than CCWD, customer must provide actual peak day. And then number 3, it says the greater of those two will be implemented for the billing. And I just, I don't know, I shouldn't be used on the water used and not the plumbing code. I mean, we're saying whichever is greater, whichever one we can get most money out of. And I'm wondering if there's a big difference in water use versus the plumbing code. Is that correct
So,
to do it like
Charles,
that?
feel free to jump in here, but my initial response is if it's, the fixture count is what could be used. If they're using more than that based on a review of historical use, we want to go with the higher amount because that's what that's what we're providing. And with fixture counts, the historical use might be less than what you might expect to see from that fixture count, but that could change at any time. They use those fixtures more and the use could go up. And so that's what we're going to be on the district would be obligated to provide that. And so that's what we would want to charge.
So that really is only in the sewer side, right? I didn't see that in the water. I was looking at something else. I'm going back and I think it is only the sewer, so I guess I can see that. I was on 3 or 4 of the memo. I thought I read the same thing in the water somewhere, and I don't think it's
No,
there.
that's correct. It's only the sewer.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, and because what if they start using more? So I agree with that.
Can I ask a question on that? Imagine somebody comes to town and is looking at a piece of property, wants to do a review. Sorry. Before they purchase it, we're not gonna require that they provide us with I mean, can we give them a preliminary? I mean, I hate to, nobody's gonna go and do a full set of approved plans, go through the county process before they purchase a piece of property. But can we do a preliminary review without an approved set of building plans, but not finalize the change in use until we have an approved set of building plans?
That's a great question. And Charles, let me know what you think about that.
Kind of like.
Is that more similar to a concept review?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, all I could say is, that ideally you have a set of, architect's plans of the proposed improvements. We realize that that's going to be not always the case. So, sometimes you can try to collect that information through conversations with the owner about their application. And in some cases, it could be that that's not really what the owner is, that's not really in their primary understanding or type of, they're not that kind of a technical person. So, maybe you just, in some cases, we actually go out to the property to see what is there and then existing, and then have a follow-up conversation with them about what their proposed improvements are. So that could be in a situation such as Jeff is talking about.
It'd be that much more difficult if that property had been vacant for a year or two and there wasn't any use that we had.
Well, we can. go
Yeah.
back for 2 years. It doesn't have to be.
I think, and that kind of rings true, Charles, because I can think of situations like that where it's just been a less formal conversation. If somebody approaches us and says, hey, we're thinking about doing this in this location, and we can provide information on, first of all, what our process is and what our policy would be, but also, just some, informal feedback based on whatever information they provide to us.
We'll
But
put
it's
something in
interesting
there
question
that
as to whether it
makes
should
that
be
clear
in the
that,
policy.
that the final decision can't be approved and go. We have, approved set of building permit, but we can make a preliminary, decision or give them advice or whatever. I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for right now, but
Yeah.
basically a concept, yeah, it's a concept review. I think they're very similar.
Yeah, and
Because when we don't get a final subdivision map.
Right.
Right? They come in, they give us a tentative map, and then we say, yeah, we can serve that, or maybe we can't, whatever. And we give
well,
a concept.
before the tentative map.
Right.
And yeah, so let's take a look at that and whether we borrow concept review language for this policy, or we just direct those customers in that situation to the concept review process. We can address that when we bring it back.
Okay, two other little things. This one should be quick. Page 2, Jessica, for master meters. On that first paragraph, it says owners responsible for all necessary modifications. Should you put and repairs? To the water infrastructure on the customer side? Because is modification considered a repair?
Yeah, I think
Does it
repairs
matter?
would be a good term to throw in there.
For,
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I mean, unless you guys don't want to, I just want to make sure that whoever's reading it, they know. And then one other thing, in number 3, just above that, recording the notice of termination of water or wastewater services. That's just protecting us, saying that you won't have potential capacity needs if we do this, right? It says, the customer is responsible for all costs associated with meter consolidation, including the reporting of the notice of termination of water and wastewater services to the county clerk recorder's office. So are we doing that just so there's some kind of legal notice that says the capacity
I
may
think
not
that's
be there?
if there's a termination, because not all of these are going to include a termination of the service. So that would be, I think that would be only in those scenarios where an account, like in Cosmic Court, there were 3 accounts that were terminated. So in those scenarios.
So we recorded the
we
document.
would potentially have those charges.
But that's what it's for, just to make sure that whoever's buying the property can't come to us and say, well, we're supposed to have capacity.
Right. That
Correct.
has to be very clearly documented. To your first point, this is, we're nitpicking a little bit here, but the only reason I'd be a little cautious about adding the word repair into that sentence is because that would always be the case, that the customer is responsible for repairing their own plumbing system.
Right.
And if we put it in some places and don't put it
Not
in
in
other
others.
places, it might create some confusion.
Okay.
So might be a little bit.
I mean, you can
Cautious
modify
about
it
that.
because it broke.
Did
You know what I mean? It's
Did
gotta
we
be
ever get the
repaired.
legal opinion that if somebody paid for 10 ESFEs and wants to change of use down to 5 ESFEs, that they actually forfeit those 5?
Yeah,
So
so,
again, I keep bringing up the Del Monte case in Tracy.
yeah, and I know Matt has taken a look at that. We've talked about, I don't know if you want to chime in here, Matt, but I think we're comfortable with it in this, in these cases where this is something the customer has applied for and elected. It's not us
Right.
imposing it on them.
That's Michael and I don't know if you can hear me, but Michael and I talked about that, and that's our position, and we actually edited, or I sent some proposed edits to the draft language to make that clear, that they were voluntarily negotiating with us to give that up in exchange for not having to pay the additional fees every month.
All right, well, if this goes to the Supreme Court, we're not gonna use you. I just wanna make it clear.
So, go ahead. Okay. we're going through all of this and I'm thinking in terms of the customer, what sort of, do they get a package on, commercial modifications or, the whole process of signing up for a commercial account? Is it a package? Is it what sort of instructions or?
So would we include this in the package at account establishment is an interesting question. We just happen to have our customer service supervisor. Or Jessica, you could take that one if you want. This would be in policy. So typically, I think the way it comes about is the commercial customer comes to us with a question
Right.
or a request, and we would point them to the policy and work through the policy. But I'm not sure if it's something that we include in sort of the welcome
Oh.
package.
I don't think it's something we want to invite everybody to do
No.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not, okay.
And that's the honeymoon phase, right? Where everybody's excited about the new account. We don't even want to think about changes.
I have some questions, and it's only about the word bi-monthly, and it appears all through here. Just curious, are we always going to bill bi-monthly with our new accounting system and new meters and everything and being able to read? Is that always going to be the case that we're going to delay or just do the same billing?
That's probably also something Kelly has an opinion on. My guess would be, at this point, I would have a hard time imagining a scenario where we change that. Because with billing, there's a lot more than just the collection of the data and generating the bills. And so there's a lot of other processes that are involved. And I think right now, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, it's beneficial for us to have it divided up into two different billing cycles.
Not two different billing cycles. Oh, I see. Okay. We wouldn't, yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
Historically, one of the main reasons why have that period of time was to give your readers enough time to read your meters. Your meters. In these situations, I've seen it go both ways. I've seen them not want to create any confusion amongst their longstanding customers and the frequency of billing to maintain consistency, but I've also seen agencies go to a more frequent billing basis. And I've seen things discussed as a result of rate studies, as a result of kind of operational needs and things of that nature. So
Well,
it just depends on.
I've always kind of had a thing in the back of my mind. I'm not a CCWD customer, so I don't get those big bills. But when you have both wastewater and water, and you get a bill every 2 months, and that's all that, it's huge. It's huge. And it seems like it'd be nicer if we could give a smaller bill every month than this big bill every other month. And just if we can do it, it also, to our benefit, it seems like it would be providing, and I don't know how it would work out, how it would, income every single month, maybe more income quicker from that use instead of waiting from, just to say January 1st, you're going to bill January 1st through February 28th. You're not going to see any of that money till middle of March.
Well, you're getting 2 months from the other billing cycle though.
Well,
Right.
have to encounter as
Or,
well.
or maybe less if you don't have to come up with $800
But
every
that's,
two.
yeah, but that's the.
Yeah,
stuff
I
was
see what
thinking.
you're, yeah,
That's a lot of-
right. But is the word, okay, back to this document. I just want to get off.
Why don't you want to agendize that 3
Down
months
that
down the
rabbit-
road or something?
we'll get down that rabbit hole some other
Go out and
day.
Bring it to us and let's talk
Fine,
about it.
monthly, sure.
Yeah, not right away, just after the AMI and all that stuff gets going really nice.
But is there a big reason to have bi-monthly, that word over and over and over in here? That's just how we bill. I mean,
Now we
it's
just say monthly.
monthly bill.
Well, just that last point,
Or is there, Jessica, is there a reason for that? Or maybe Jeff?
well, just to touch on that last point that Kelly made, those other processes do require a lot of staff time. And so by having, we're only dealing with half the customer base each month when it comes to all the lockups and all that other stuff. That does require a lot of staff time. And so to double the amount that we're doing every month might be challenging. I'm not saying we can't do it. It's something we can look at.
Get a bigger computer.
Yeah,
Spend more money on
there we go.
Tyler.
And is this? Yes, and in answer to your question about bi-monthly, remember our rate structures, our adopted rates uses the word bi-monthly.
Okay.
So we're consistent across the board at this particular point in time. And that's why we list everything within our policies and ordinances as bi-monthly.
And that's why this word is appearing in this document over and over.
That's right, because that's how we currently have our rates set up, and that's how and it's billed on a bi-monthly basis, so it's consistency.
That doesn't necessarily build an argument for continuing the process. I can see where there's so much confusion. You and people that live around here are always articulating that our bills are so high, we get a bill for $300 a month. And that's not true. And I think that if we had a rate structure that reflected what the per month billing is, it's predictable, at least in my mind, that it would make becoming a customer more palatable.
And the subject to this.
Yep, so let's bring it back at a later date.
Yes, there's a multitude of issues associated with this. And it's not a simple fix, because as Michael said, when you're talking about the after billing process, and if you have late notices and then you go into shut-offs, and instead of shutting off just 8,000 per or 7,500 per cycle, you're dealing with maybe 14, 15,000 people, and you would impact our staffing and the field guys. So it is something we can look at and moving forward. But as President Cicada said, maybe once we get through this implementation process, get some time under our belt to see how things work, we can come back with that study and for that discussion.
Perfect.
But
Okay.
just real quick, just to respond to Director Thomas's point, I just think it is important to point out that, because I think what Jeff is saying is we're doing it that way for the purpose of consistency with the way things are now, but that doesn't mean
You can't.
that's not necessarily an argument that we can't change it. We
Yes.
could change it and make it consistent with a
Yeah.
different way, but
Yes,
there's a lot of different considerations there.
exactly.
So it's a point
Because
well
we'd
taken.
only be changing how many years of history?
75.
Okay.
I might as well join in this Brown Act violation.
Oh,
Can't somebody request, can't somebody make, with the auto payment, can't they make a preliminary payment and then do a follow-up?
Certainly, and that
So
is an
people
option.
can- You should tell your customers that they can say, I want 150 this month, and then I'll do the follow-up the second.
Wouldn't it be late?
No, that's an actual option that we give, and our customers and our customer service department talks to customers about that, and that's an option they've had for quite some time. It's a very good point.
all right, so let's bring it back and stop having a Brown Act violation. Here we go.
Related to commercial meter policy.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
so back to what we were talking about in the board package, you also gave us
What are you
the
talking about? What is the agenda?
the ordinance 98-06,
Yeah.
the addressing commercial connections. Are we also talking about updating this based on what we said today?
Yeah, Jessica,
we
do you want
need
to
to,
take
or
that
no?
one?
So, so I think what we are gonna do is likely rescind that ordinance and replace it with this one, as policy. So what we made sure to look through that whole ordinance to make sure we were covering everything that's within that one and then elaborate on it, because it's just too vague. So there's nothing that's in that ordinance that isn't in this draft policy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so rescind the one and then it'll be replaced by a policy now.
Yeah.
Would be an ordinance. The
Okay,
policy would be adopted by ordinance, but I
oh,
think the
okay,
point, the reason why it was, that it was included here, to Jessica's point, that we would be replacing that, the new policy would include what's in here and then the additional provisions.
so, if there's no more discussion, we can move on. You'll bring back one last draft copy based on our discussions today.
So would the board like to see another discussion draft or bring it back as a proposed ordinance for adoption?
What do you want, board?
As long as it has what we talked about, then I'm fine.
Everybody else okay with that? Bring it back to approve, and if we see too many issues,
Okay.
we'll kick it.
So what we'll probably do as far as timing goes is, I think, it would, you probably won't see it at the next meeting because we have to notice this well in advance, and we want to make sure we've had, another thorough round of review.
Can we see it at the engineering committee?
Sorry, what's that?
Can we see it at the engineering committee?
I don't think we're scheduled to have an engineering committee before, if we were to bring it back in a month. But we can definitely have an engineering committee to review it again if.
I don't know the nature, but I'm just.
It might be good, honestly, from a staff perspective, I'd rather have additional review and not have to make changes once the ordinance is in front of the board. So, yeah, we could schedule that.
Do we have anybody knocking down our door saying they want to make a change? No, then, you want to just bring it back in October as a draft and then finalize it in November after you do all the noticing?
We could do it that way as well, bring
Whatever
back
you
one
want.
more draft.
Well, you just said you would rather do a draft than
I think he was talking about the engineering.
Do it either way.
you decide and let us know. We're okay with that? Whatever your time allows.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Didn't you say we were only giving them 30 days?
Well, okay, so as far as the 30 days
minutes.
go, I think that you should probably just say something that, we strive to get these done by X amount, 30 days, however, there are complex issues.
I think probably the
and-
easiest way to say is we'll provide a response within 30 days.
But I don't
Hopefully
want.
the response is,
In 30 days, it says we need an additional 60 days. If it's good, if you're gonna take more time, then you need to respond earlier, within a couple weeks, right?
so,
Just to say it's gonna be 90 days.
well, like I said, it may take time, before, depending on staff bandwidth to get to the review of that application. Once we get to it, it is a more complex case than can be resolved.
You're gonna have some angry customers, if they come in and pay, and then on day number 30, they receive a letter saying, we're in receipt of your money and your request. We will get back to you in another 30 days and not have anything.
Completely understand that. And so I
when
think,
you get it, it should go to you right away and say, oh man, we're understaffed. We can't get it to November. Let customer service respond saying so,
right,
that we received it, but it's gonna be some time.
but I think the best, because what I would be cautious about is adding that level of detail to an ordinance.
Okay, I get it.
Rather than just making sure that we don't, that we have those response times, internally, that should be the case. And we don't want to get to the point where we have an angry customer because we
And we
too
do-
loose with it.
So for the customer's protection, is there some kind of verbiage when you give them a receipt for this or in anything that we do? If they're not happy with the decision of staff, it can come to the board for leave of application, right? I want to make
Yeah,
sure
they
they're
would always
told that.
have an option to come to the board.
Okay. And, okay, we'll bring back another draft one.
What's that?
I said, bring it back in draft and try and have something that you can't give a time, just say whatever decision's there, if it's to be
Okay.
appealed via the board or something like that, board. You can go to the board for approval or appeal, If they want to appeal, if they don't like what you've done, they can always address the board. Okay, we'll see where it goes. We'll see what you bring back.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's move on.
This meeting,
Oh, wait.
this meeting really started off fast.
I know.
It was
Okay,
moving.
but here we go. So
I was
is there
proud.
any public
Proud
comment
to be up here.
regarding 5A, the commercial meter policy? Seeing none. We're moving on to reports. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Jessica, and everybody. That was really good.
Well, and thank you all for detailed comments because that really helps us make sure we get it right.
Well, I think it was a real important subject for all of us, and we appreciate that you guys did what you did. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we get to hear customer service report from Kelly Richards. Welcome, Kelly. We're glad you're here, and this is going to be a monthly a gig for you.
That's what I've been told, so we'll see how this
I
goes.
tell you the rules.
Rules of Fight Club, we don't discuss Fight Club, is that what it is? No,
Speed wins.
speed wins. Well, good for you. I've got a short presentation today, so President Cicada and members of the board, Kelly Richards, your customer service supervisor, and I get the pleasure today of providing you with a customer service update. So just to kick us off here, I'm sure you're fully aware of our staff and customer service, but I'm just so proud of them. I'd like to make sure that I introduce them today. So we've got Corinne, who's our senior CSR, Carol, who's our CSR 2, Kate as our CSR 1, and then myself in the supervisor role. So
Oh, I've never seen all these names written out, except in the float and the organization charts. So
really?
Very nice.
Well, yeah, so this is my group and they're a great
Well,
group
sometimes
and I'm
bring 'em
happy
in.
to, yeah, I'm happy to
Sure.
represent them and it's been a great 7 months so far. So
Awesome.
yeah, we're plugging right along in there. So just a couple of things I wanted to make sure that I updated you all on today. Just to kick us off. So a lot of what we do in there obviously is front-facing customer service. We are a hub of sorts as far as customer interaction is concerned. So we're responsible for handling really what I consider to be the bulk of our customer inquiries, which include but are certainly not limited to account questions and updates, move-ins and move-outs, requests for service, and that includes, of course, leaks and any kind of field emergencies that we may have. We work very closely, obviously, with our operations staff on those. We process account payments, we conduct water sales, and then obviously share with our customers all of our programs and services, in addition to any other programs and services that may be of assistance to them in the county area. So just to report on really the last 3 months here, we have a tendency to handle anywhere between 2,000 to about 5,000 inquiries per month. And that involves phone calls, emails, work orders. Unfortunately, we haven't really generated a mechanism for walk-ins yet, but those don't seem to really be the bulk of our interactions, at least in the time that I've been here, obviously stemming from, I think, some modifications due to COVID and folks finding alternatives for customer interaction.
People drive all the way out here?
Oh, yes, yes. We still get visitors and we're obviously happy to get visitors, but it doesn't necessarily seem to be, the bulk of our interaction anymore.
Kelly, on this
yeah.
chart, July's higher than the rest. Does that have to do with the meters, the new meters, or is that normal?
I can tell you just from my experience in the industry, summer months seem to be, busier months. You have more move-ins and move-outs typically during the summertime when school's out. And then obviously with the projects that we've had going on, yes, we've
And
had,
the second homeowners are generally here. This is the middle of summer.
right. And
This is,
so,
you have June, July, August, and July was highest
Yeah.
for everything. I'm just
right.
wondering. The billing, well, they're all billing months, I guess.
Right, and we have had an influx due to the billing and the AMI installation. So we've had a lot of new meters put in around that time, which obviously garnered a lot of interest, a lot of questions, and I think, information seeking from our customers. So we did obviously handle quite a few during that month of July. So I'm happy to report on these, kind of metrics and analytics, maybe on a more of a quarterly basis with you to kind of just paint a picture of some of the things that we're doing in there aside from, you know, our projects and collaborations with other departments. And that segues us over to our projects and programs that, you know, customer service has really been a major part of. And kicking it off with AMI, you know, we've, like I said, been actively collaborating with engineering and operations to move the project forward. And granted, I've been here for the last 7 months of it. It's been, you know, happening long before I came on board, but, you know, in the time that I've been here, customer service staff has really been instrumental in the discovery and problem solving of quite a few, you know, discrepancies and anomalies related to meter installs and the data that's coming through the system. So, you know, I just want to recognize, you know, my staff for that. It's been, you know, something that I think has been new to everybody, you know, navigating this, and to be able to critically evaluate the data and drill down that deep on a regular basis. I just, you know, would like to recognize them for their dedication to that, and obviously being able to take all of that into consideration as we've been working with customers and channeling and answering those inquiries and concerns as well. So I would say we're entering what I deem to be kind of a cleanup phase of the project on the customer service end. So we want to make sure that, you know, all of our billing accounts actually have AMI meters tied to them. Part of what we're doing right now is working with Mueller and Keystone to make sure that what we're seeing on the billing CIS side, as far as meters that are still showing as old manual read meters, are actually being actively reviewed and changed out in the field. So we're nearing the end of, you know, the meter installs. We want to make sure we're not missing anything. The data reporting to us from the network, obviously we want it to be timely and accurate. That's the crux of the billing. We can't have successful billing unless we have timely and accurate data. So again, with the deep dives and the analyzing everything that's coming through and really, you know, kind of questioning and bringing to the attention of Mueller and mainly Mueller and other divisions here at CCWD, what we're seeing on our side, to try to, again, paint a picture for them of why these things are so important for us from our operational perspective. And then we are creating billing timelines to accommodate, you know, whatever remaining field work needs to be completed. And we've literally had to adjust our billing timeline on every billing, you know, period, at least since I've been here, because it depends on where the installers are. How many, you know, meters that, you know, Pat and his staff have to go out in the field and manually read versus how many can we pull off the network via AMI. So we've had to really kind of have this ebb and flow with operations and with Mueller and Keystone to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to move the project forward, but then also meeting those critical deadlines. And there's been a couple, you know, billing cycles within the past couple months where we've unfortunately not met those deadlines. So from my perspective, there's been some anxiety there. That's obviously not what we try to achieve from a billing standpoint, but I'm pleased to say that this last billing that we did for cycle 2 and then the upcoming billing for cycle 1, we're hitting our deadlines right on point. So I'm looking forward to that continuing as we kind of phase out of, you know, AMI. So that's a positive that's coming from this. We also have our Centrix data portal. Our customer service staff just recently went through training, a pretty significant training on use of the Centrix portal. And that's really for our internal side right now, just to understand the how to analyze the data that's coming through and really how to navigate the portal so that we're comfortable with being able to understand the data that we're seeing. And then we can ultimately, once the project's been accepted and we're working a little bit more closely with customers on that data, that we're able to help them interpret what it all means.
Just real quick, and I hate to interrupt you because this is absolutely fantastic, but just, I don't know that the board has heard of Centrix. So
oh, I'm
just
sorry.
explain that.
Okay, so Centrix is actually the platform that Mueller provides for us to be able to see all the data that's coming in off of the meters. It also provides us quite a bit of information on our, collector units and repeaters that are out there. So we're actually able to go in and search for a specific meter and be able to see data related to it. And then also for our, our larger collector units and our repeaters that we have out in the field, we can pull reports, we can see, how those are doing, if there's any troubleshooting that's needed, things of that nature. So it's a pretty robust.
As of right now, with Tyler and, are we still doing Tyler and Springbrook? Springbrook for the jail side, Tyler
Yes.
for the billing?
Yes.
But I guess the Tyler and the AMI, that's all starting to flow nicely now. They're talking really good.
So my understanding, I know Jessica's been working with Tyler and Mueller on kind of that integration side of it. Obviously, we're not quite there to be able to really push forward with the customer facing portal because we're still putting meters in the ground and we're still, moving forward with the project. But in the background, those talks are happening, and Mueller / Centrix, their data side of it, is in communications with our reps from Tyler for moving forward on the portal. So those talks are already happening.
So better, but not done.
Right.
Is a customer service staff feeling a little bit less pressure, or is it still,
Well,
is there improvement? I guess that's all I want to say. Is there,
There's
are we
improvement.
moving forward?
there's improvement, but there's still things that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of segue into that with Encode when I talk on that, briefly next. This is mainly just kind of the impacts of AMI, but obviously AMI has impacted our ability to be able to, I think, function at the level that we're looking to function within Encode. So, the data integration between our AMI and Tyler customer portal, we're having those talks in the background right now. And that's in anticipation of that portal being rolled out, once we are fully AMI, and we're not quite there yet. So for Encode, we've been actively communicating with Tyler representatives on questions and issues related to, our daily operation within the system, in addition to any, special processes that we do, or more, kind of monthly or, sporadic processes that we do in the system. So it's been a little bit of a struggle, and frustrations and everything from the customer service side. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, there's anytime that you're moving to a new software, you want to make sure that you're optimizing the software for what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And we're just not quite there yet. So, our billing process has morphed and changed for each bill run, like I said, due to impacts of the AMI process. So that's kind of been an interesting thing to navigate. That's taken many more hours than it should for the billing, for a normal billing process. So it's kind of, we're anticipating, obviously, that once AMI, we are fully AMI, and we can kind of shift focus more to the Encode side of things and really tightening up that side of the house, that we'll be able to hopefully see some of these, burdens and frustrations that we've had alleviated. But again, we're going to have to work very closely with Tyler and their representatives to make sure that the system is really, like I said, optimal for what it is that we're trying to accomplish here at the district, and obviously meeting the needs of our customers. So several processes have yet to be configured and set up within the CIS side of the system. And that's, I think, adding to a little bit of the frustration. We're not quite fully integrated on the Encode side. Positives, though, is that we have been in contact with other agencies who are working within Encode 10, and a couple of them are local. And then there are many actually that have been popping up within California. So I reached out to a contact that I had within the Tyler community, since I've worked in Tyler products for some time now. And I was fairly surprised to learn that there's not a Encode user group in Northern California. And typically you see that, so that you have a kind of a support group. You can bounce things off of each other, and usually in softwares you find that. And they don't currently have one. So I have So we're looking to start one. Yeah, exactly. So I'm working with a gentleman from Tyler to see if we can't garner some interest from some other agencies and kind of start a support group of sorts so that we can, problem solve and attack some of these things together and get perspective from other agencies that might be functioning in it a little bit easier than we are, see what they did, how their implementation differed from ours, and if there's anything we might be able to do on our side to, again, make sure this works for us. So that was really everything I wanted to report on those projects. I wanted to segue over into LIWAP. I know this has been reported, at the board before that we were partnering with Amador Tuolumne Community Action Agency. They're the local service provider for this program. Our customers can apply for these benefits when they have a past due bill from us. And the information provided to the customer during the application will allow ATCAA to determine whether they're eligible for the benefit or not. So they're kind of the agency that's facilitating, whether or not people are qualified, if they meet the qualifications. And then if they do meet the qualifications, then we are set up through the program to receive monies directly from the program.
When a customer is late, and you see that on your AR or something, do you reach out to the customer, send them an email or something that says, hey, you're behind, here's a potential area that you could call for if assistance is needed? We're
not currently doing that. It's absolutely something that we could, look into doing.
Before it gets too far behind, right?
Sure.
Here's
And
some resources if needed.
Right. And I know that there was some, we've done some outreach. I know ATCAA has done outreach. The state has done outreach. But I think as we start talking about the reintroduction of our delinquency processes, this is going to be something that we ultimately want to
put that right on
push
the
out.
statement,
Right.
I
Exactly.
think it'd be a great outreach for the customer who's currently at need right at the moment,
Right. Absolutely. But I'm happy to report that we've started receiving payments. So customers are utilizing this program. And we look forward to that continuing for, the length that the program is available. So absolutely, we're happy to offer that as as an assistance to our
You
customers.
said as long as it's available, what?
Well, as long as the state has the program running. So, it's really, I think, funding based, obviously. This is an assistance program. So I don't anticipate it's going to go away anytime soon. Been a pretty sought after program. Even when I was at my last agency before I came over here, there was a lot of interest from customers, with this because it is that one-time kind of assistance and it does go up to $2,000. So you can qualify up to $2,000, which is pretty significant for some of these customers. So.
And this is different than our program that we offer. And I would like to see Michael's discussion on our program for assistance.
The customer assistance program.
Yeah, just because it has been how many years now? 3? And do we have any?
Oh, it's been more than that.
Yeah. I mean,
but we
I've been
could-
part of it.
But we could provide an update on those numbers. I think that's something. we
But I'm
could
just wondering, I'd like to know what the waiting period,
Yeah.
who's on the list, and should we do some kind of a rotation after a couple of years, anyhow, bring that on our agenda at some point and let's see if it needs to have any revisions.
Right. And I'm happy to report, actually, Corinne just went through a big process of kind of re-upping the customer assistance program enrollment. So she just went through that process.
Maybe next month. You
right,
can
and
bring
I'm
that
happy to
back, and
report-
then we'll see if we need to
Sure.
revise anything.
Happy to do
Awesome.
it. Yes, absolutely. And then just a final thing I wanted to report on, which I think, has been a pretty great thing for us in customer service is, our partnership with Motherlode Job Training. We've been able to bring in temporary part-time employees who are seeking professional development in the area in order to pursue regular permanent employment opportunities. So we've had the pleasure of having our current temp, Jamie, who's been with us since May. And she'll unfortunately be fulfilling her assignment with us at the end of October. But in this time, she's been trained on basic admin and customer service that she can obviously, take the skills with her and future employment endeavors. And it's been a benefit to us as well, because we do have that additional person in the office for that front end customer service interaction. So just some things going on in our neck of the woods that I wanted to obviously bring to your attention, and glad I had the opportunity to do that today. I look forward to doing it on a more frequent basis. And
So Jamie's name's not on your list here,
Mhm.
but she is a customer service rep temporarily until the end of October.
yeah, so it's like on a roughly a 6-month temporary
Okay.
basis. And, we've had her at our front counter. She's been handling some front counter interactions and helping with some, payments over the phone,
I
customer
saw that,
assistance.
that Kate Darby was limited term. I kind of thought that would be her, but
Right.
that was a person we hired just for a 1-year term. Is that?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So that's a direct hire through CCWD, and this is more of a kind of temporary position through Motherlode job training. And it's structured a little bit differently. So she's not technically an employee of CCWD. She's an employee of Motherlode job training.
You're training her.
We're training her. Correct. Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
So-
That's great.
But it's a win-win for both parties.
And so how do you think your staffing is? Do you have adequate staffing?
Oh, boy, Bertha, that's the question of the day. You know? Do I have the floor?
Use Motherlode.
No, I think, I don't think I'd be out of turn in saying that, it's something Jeff and I are talking about, obviously, being that, Kate's position is limited term, and that actually ends at the end of December. So, when we're talking about keeping up, an elevated level of customer service and making sure that we're, obviously meeting the expectations of these projects and these other things that we want to do, where we're evaluating operational efficiencies and, partnering with other departments and those cross-departmental functions, and making sure that we're not going to be dropping anything or back burnering anything unnecessarily. These are absolutely talks that we're having right
Yeah,
now.
well, I don't mean to embarrass you.
I know, I'm not, Bertha, I don't get embarrassed. No, I just think, I can say these are conversations that we're actively having right now, because we absolutely want to make sure that we're staffed appropriately for what we need to achieve.
You are the front line. You are.
Right. Right.
you are
Well, that'll
part-
be an agenda item.
Right.
I don't take
Agenda
hiring
items
new
have
people
come up
lightly.
with Cindy.
Just
Right.
FYI.
Right.
I don't think any of us do.
So yes, we're having those talks right now to make sure that we're adequately staffed for everything that we need to accomplish. Yes.
Well, Kelly, thank you. It's
Hey,
really
thank
nice
you.
having
Thank you very
here.
much.
Michael, thank you for putting her on the agenda. We look forward to seeing her, and
Yes.
you'll bring back next time.
I just wish I had done it sooner.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I told
I
Kelly
am,
yesterday, it's one of those
I'm-
things that once
yeah.
you see it, you kind of are like, why didn't I see this
You're right.
before?
Right.
Yeah, this would.
I
be-
might
We're
add
really
that
glad you're here. Russ has something to say.
Excuse
Kelly.
me.
Um,
I'm
He
talking.
has his hand raised, you did.
I just have to tell you that this has really been a very wonderful staff report. I don't know whether, we've never given anybody a standing ovation, have we?
No, shall
No,
I know.
but this is really so refreshing that customer service has been on our minds and in our hearts for a long, long time. And it is so refreshing that you've come here with all this experience and background.
Mhm.
And holy cow, my gosh,
Well, you present really well. too.
Yeah.
Well, thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
good.
If
Sorry,
I'm
sorry
not scared.
sorry about all the other staff members.
I didn't say they didn't, but she took it bubbly and it's like, yeah.
No, can I?
Positive.
First, yeah, oh, thank you. Because I remember when you came on and, just the level of expertise you brought
Mhm.
to CCW. And I'm so appreciative of everything you're doing and
Thank
what
you.
you will continue to do.
Thank you. I received tremendous support, and like I said, I have amazing staff. So it's not lost on me that, my success, I feel like, is based on the people I'm surrounded by. So I
That is an
absolutely feel.
Awesome comment, because you're absolutely.
Yeah.
right.
It's
You're gonna
really,
lose 2 people by the end of the year.
I know,
Well, she's already
I know,
made the
I'm working on
note,
it.
so we'll see how that goes.
No pressure, I'm working on
One,
it.
one other question I have, you mentioned a support group. Could you assist us in setting up a support group for this board?
You know,
All right.
once I get that process down pat, I'll circle back with you and we'll see what we can
Kelly,
do.
thank you. We look forward to
Thank
seeing you
you.
next month.
All righty, thank you very much.
All right, let's move on to report on the August 2022 operations. I
I'm
understand
gonna
that
have to take a 2-minute break, but you can keep
we
going.
can keep going. Thank you. Hello, gentlemen.
Holy.
Yeah.
They're ganging up on.
So as a surprise, we're going to add on 100 slide PowerPoint on the top of Damon. And me and Pat are going to try to be bubbly. We are kind of bubbly, but. No. But as you guys have the PowerPoint in front of you, if you have any questions that pop out from it, please feel free to ask. I know,
And Damon is out of the office for a little bit. I understand.
that is correct.
You guys fixed a few pipes.
Yeah,
Took some pictures of them.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't show the,
That's an excellent report. Thank you.
no, and it doesn't
We
show
like
the
these
outside
fast and
temperature.
furious reports,
So-
quite frankly.
Include them repairs and.
Here we go.
And it
The
was a
thank
little,
you's kind of cute.
yeah, yeah.
Did we buy these saddle clamps by the truckload?
We do buy them in bulk for the clamps for the repairs.
Oh, yeah.
No details about where these are and what you were doing and who's in the pictures? and-
Yeah, we're good.
I think we tried.
Come on, make David proud.
No, we're gonna take a little recess.
Use your imagination.
And thank you, guys. What are we doing with David's support? That's,
That was the Julius Bluebell.
Okay.
look, they can answer you, ask your question without even looking at this. Okay, let's try another one. Avery tank.
What
Pump
kind of pump
station.
is that you pulled in slide 15 there at station 10? What's
That would be a
station?
vertical turbine pump for the wet well.
Okay,
Yeah. so
Thank
guys
you.
were cleaning the pump in the wet well. Pull the pumps and things for you.
That's a control valve, a play valve for the pump station on the distribution side. So. Yeah,
Reed's Turnpike, pump station, telemetry, coax reattachment. Did you have to use the boom box?
on that one, yeah, we did use the pump truck and that was a communication issue that we were.
Big is that?
it's a good thing we have that.
A problem, yeah.
I believe that one's a 25 foot antenna.
And on another note, there's a tower like that right out here. What's that?
I believe that's a 60.
No, I mean, what is it?
Oh, so that's our. It's a tower, Cindy. No,
It's here. But I mean, is it cell or is it
It's
radio?
internet,
Oh, it's internet.
internet coming to our office,
That one or this one?
to this one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Has that always been there?
It has, so there's a repeater over at the sheriff's station that beams their internet to us on that tower.
Is that the radio frequency?
No, it's just internet.
Well, when I'm out in Mountain Ranch and I use a radio frequency internet, that use repeater stations.
Oh.
They're way better, the best.
Oh, it is a radio. Yeah,
it
repeater,
was
but
excellent
I don't know
internet.
if it's a radio.
What is that in slide 20?
It's like raisinets or something.
I was kind of worried about myself.
Well, they're little,
What is it?
It could be some.
Hershey's Kisses or something?
Yeah, it's, that you wanted to know who's in the picture. Well,
Right here.
No, what is this that you took a picture of?
I think it's the weights that are on the end of the camera. Or,
No, it's.
See what we're talking about, Mike? All right, Damon has to bring it back next time, the explanation.
Yep, yep.
You know, we could all make a guess
Got
and
Philip.
win.
Philip screws for the eyes.
It's like it might be a transducer. A lot of transducers that we have that measure the level in the wet wells are weighted down. And somebody could have it's definitely not ours. I think this was
Later.
out of a,
Well, thanks, you guys. That
No
was fun.
thank you.
Michael,
Thank you.
we're moving on because we have.
Thanks
closed
for being
session.
so
Thanks, you guys.
bubbly.
We've got your report. Quick one. Awesome.
You might have noticed in the consent calendar that the CHIPS property budget adjustment that should close early next week. And that project is moving forward. So a couple of different things that I definitely want to make sure we touch on. One is the water, wildfire and wine event is shaping up really nicely. It's going to be great speakers. It's going to be a really good event. Damon's going to moderate a panel, and we have good speakers on the second panel as well. We're one of the sponsors of the Mountain County's happy hour reception.
What's our signature drink?
We have really good plans in the works on that. We have to pick a signature cocktail. So I think it's gonna be a fantastic event. So October 20th, make sure that's on your calendar.
Everybody get registered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a town hall meeting tomorrow evening in Copperopolis, and I suppose this is all kind of transpired in between the last board meeting and now, but the main point of the town hall meeting is to talk about all the construction that's going on down there, the projects we have in the works, the lift station improvement project that has been several years in the making, that is finally starting. They're actually breaking ground tomorrow, right? The lift station project, anyways, this week. They'll be, yeah, they're starting work. There's some coordination with the county going on because they're paving Burns Ferry Road at the same time as part of our part of our project is there. So they actually had to pull off. We're getting our pipe in the ground as quickly as we can so they can come and pave on top of it after the pipe is in, rather than trenching into a new road. So we've been in close coordination with the county on that. And yeah, it's great to see that project moving forward. But over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of discussion in Copperopolis about the potential for a biosolids recycling facility, composting facility. I think we've talked about it probably just in GM reports. I don't think we've had an agenda item on it in any of the board meetings about a developer that approached us to consider a project and on one of our properties in the wastewater property of a treatment plant property in Copperopolis is one of the sites that we've identified. Very early in the process, though, there's no decision that's been made on it. No site has been selected, but the planning commission did a zoning use consistency determination, and that really kind of raised awareness in the community about the potential for the project, and there's a lot of concern about the project. So I suspect that will be one of the main topics of discussion at the town hall meeting tomorrow. I also want to let the board know, I know I've talked to Director Underhill about this, but we still have, and it's been a couple of years now, an exceedance of disinfection byproducts in the Evans Pass distribution system. And we're working really hard. We had a really productive workshop. We brought Kennedy Juice on board to do a root cause analysis because we've tried a lot of different things to address that issue, and it's a persistent issue.
Did we get an NOV?
We did, yeah, and it's still.
When was that NOV? How long ago was that?
January 2020.
Yeah, it was the last quarter.
Oh, last quarter.
Did they give you some kind of a time frame to get this resolved?
When we're working on, in coordination and communication with the water board and trying different strategies to address it, which haven't worked yet. So we have, we just did this root cause analysis workshop, which I think was really productive. And our operators involved our operations staff's involved in working directly with consultants that have experience with this, because other agencies are facing this issue as well. So that's an ongoing effort that we'll be providing more updates as it moves forward. We didn't have finance committee last month, but we did have engineering committee, talked about a lot of different projects. Engineering is moving full speed ahead on so many different projects that it's enough to make your head spin. And we've covered, I think, all of them, at least in a little bit in the engineering committee. So a lot going on those fronts. And I think that's probably about all I need to update. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff going on,
Yep.
but I'll keep it short.
Thank you. Then you canceled finance for next Tuesday, right?
Yes, we decided to cancel that one as well, unless something has come up since we
Oh, for
last
this
talked
month
about
as
that.
well.
That was the discussion we had about, because of how early we are in the fiscal year and whether we needed it, but
Right.
I'd be happy to
And,
do
you
it.
know, because I'll be at that conference anyway. on
Oh,
the
and that was part of
20th,
it
so
too.
with conference and, Special district leadership,
Oh,
Yeah.
SDRMA, SDA.
Are you gonna be an instructor?
So we could,
An instructor?
right, so the plan was not to have it, but happy to do it if anything's changed or if there's any agenda items that you have thought of since then.
I'm gonna be learning how to be a board member.
that was Jeff.
Hey, payback.
Support group of stuff.
Yes,
There was,
sorry, Michael, I overruled you.
there was
I thought you were done.
I'm gonna look at my complaints about the comments. One of the reasons why we did not have them in the last 2 months is because when you look at our budget status report, the first couple months of data is really not enough to get a picture of what's going on. Secondly, our auditors will be here October 4th, and we're working diligently to provide them all the information. So Catherine and Patty are knee deep in that, and it would be most beneficial if we didn't have to prepare for the finance committee.
Works for us.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we will be back on in October, though,
Yes, ma'am.
third Tuesday.
That'll work. And since you're already talking, you want to go ahead and do that on board?
Excuse me. All right, since I'm already talking, we had a couple of things written down.
I think so, yeah.
We're still waiting for our other 2 scholarship winners.
Bret Hart kid, kind of slow.
Yeah.
Jessica,
We
are
need
you
to
still online?
improve our reputation. Come on.
Yep, so
Okay.
one of those scholarship awardees is moving to Montana right now, so I'm hoping either next board meeting or the board meeting after, we can get both of them to Zoom in, but it might only be one of the 2.
Moving to Montana.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
And, and then we did have a backlog of connections, and we've been talking about that. A backlog
Of
of
how many new
connections,
connections?
the status of a backlog of connections.
Or did you want to know how many
Yeah.
new connections we've had or something?
A status of,
Of new connections. Okay, so next agenda. Our last fiscal year thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and the other, I think, other item.
Okay, that's it.
Michael, I'm sorry to jump in. Michael, your mic's not on. We can't hear you.
It wasn't that important.
Yeah, it wasn't.
He
Everybody
hasn't
else
said
is on?
anything important
Thank you,
today.
Jess.
All right, Scott, what do you got?
Just, I'll be attending that CSBA leadership conference
Thank you. Yeah,
Nothing to do with it.
Russ, Paul?
Hey, Michael mentioned the paving that's going on the Burnsbury Road, and boy, it's just really been quite a sight to see how well that George Reed has orchestrated that project. They're paving a mile a day of roads, and they go along with a machine that extracts this much asphalt, and then right behind you've got all this asphalt laid down with paving, and it's real pretty. They're going so fast that they have to pull off the job, at 1,800 feet of height in the ground where Mazingo is going to start in that location. So kudos to George Reed, they're doing a great job. And Michael and I attended a concerned committee meeting down in Copperobus last week. Down at the Black Hawk Hall, where we're trying to defuse some of the call it outrage or whatever that has been occurring down there by misinformation. Jump into the wrong conclusions, and I think we kind of tamp it down a little bit. And hopefully have a chance to do tamping down.
Excuse me, about the service we're providing or?
That proposed biosolid. It's like people are talking, transmitting a message starting with Cindy here and then I
We can take, we
Just
can do
about-
that, we can do
just
that little
about the
game real
open-
quick.
This is about the open dump trailers that are gonna be going on, lawsuit right now.
yeah, that same thing.
I heard that.
That's very helpful, Director Davidson. Thank you.
Anything I can do to help you wrap it up, they should at least be covered with tarps.
No. Oh, very helpful. Some, you mentioned the scholarship things. I hope that you read about young Garrett Hesser, the young man that
Yes,
came here
Yes,
to make a presentation here, the Calvert High School graduate. It was such a really wonderful presentation that he made, and it really struck me that Golden One has given him a $20,000
yeah.
scholarship. What
We'll be
a
back here
company.
running this place when we.
I know, yeah. Anyway, so I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Kudos also to Garrett. He's going to represent our county in some high position sometime.
All right, I am also gonna be going to that conference in Napa this next week, this weekend coming up, actually. And also, Murphy Cemetery District is having a little ribbon cutting ceremony for our treatment plant upgrade, and I don't know if I invited you all. But it's Friday 11th. I think you guys are still coming, aren't you?
So you got the big scissors for it?
Yep, we're following that. So. I thought we were gonna come over there.
Jeff's here.
Yeah, they both need it. So I guess that's it for right now for me. And then, moving on, the next board meetings, Wednesday, September 28th and Wednesday, October 12th. And, one more thing about agenda items, Michael, I noted the number of connections, new connections for last fiscal year. I'm just giving you notes. And then the water use you're gonna bring back.
Yep.
And on that biosolids handling, I'd like to see that agenda just for you to fill us in. Kind of what's going on, what you're thinking about at some point. Instead of it just being in your report, that way
Yep.
we could talk about it a little bit.
That makes sense. Yeah, we had it on the agenda as just as a discussion item for the engineering committee last week, but we can
Oh.
bring it to the full board.
When you guys are ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I think the reason it hasn't come to the board yet is still really, really early in the process. We don't even know if it's going to move
Well,
forward.
it said like you identified a location and with
Well,
me,
we're
so I'd
still
like to know
evaluating
why, yeah.
multiple locations. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, no, we haven't even.
Yeah, I'd like to
started
hear
the study,
that.
so.
All right,
Sure.
very cool. All right, so if that's it, we're gonna be going into a closed session. Conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, 2 cases. And public employee performance evaluation, government code. And yeah,
Right.
all right.
Good to go.
Closed
Thanks,
session
everybody.
is.
Oh, we have closed.
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
everybody. Yeah.
Got to comment, the 75th birthday party was amazing.
Yeah,
I
I
was
forgot to
very,
comment
very
on that, too.
impressed. And it was awesome. If you didn't get to go, you missed it. You were there. Good job, you guys. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you to staff that
Jesse.
planned it and pulled it off.
Work on that bubbly.
You know, I